Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Still with you on today's edition of Cairo Local Time. And as promised earlier today, we have a very interesting discussion here in the studio with our guests. We'll be discussing a very important issue related to the Egyptian economy, which is Egypt's ability to achieve self-sufficiency in petroleum products by 2023. And we are delighted to be joined this afternoon in the studio by our guest, Dr. Hussein El Ghazawi, energy expert. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Now, first and foremost, Egypt is taking steps in this regard towards achieving self-sufficiency in petroleum products by 2013 after the success it really had in achieving gas self-sufficiency in 2018. How important is achieving self-sufficiency for Egypt, Doctor?
As you said, we already reached self-sufficient in gas by September 2018.
Right.
Actually, we used to import, we used to export, then we tend to import when we stop the investment, and came back again to self-sufficient, and we also start exporting gas. Refinery product is very important because it's a value-added project.
Okay.
When you export oil, for example, and if I take Africa as an example, Africa produces 8.4 million barrels of oil every day, but with a refinery capacity or petroleum product capacity of 2.2 million. So there is a gap between and Africa in needs of about 4 million. So we have a gap when it comes to the refinery product. Egypt, we used to have a gap. I think His Excellency, the President, the government have taken a fantastic step to focus on the value-added project, and Egypt managed to increase the capacity of the refinery product. We are #1 in Africa now with about capacity of 750,000 barrels of refinery product. So we are actually well off when it comes to the petroleum product. It is quite right. In a couple of years from now, we will reach the self-sufficient. What the steps been taking, upgrading the existing of the refinery project, and again focus the last, if I take Egypt refinery company, which was opened last year by His Excellency the President. It's a very good example of this value added. You take the low the oil, and you have the jet fuel, high octane fuel, and you have also the gas for cooking as well. So natural gas. It's all about value added, and this project costed about $4.3 billion. It's all foreign investment. So that's Egypt is an attractive place to attract investors. Also offered a lot of job, and for those who live in Mustorod, see the impact of this project on the quality life of the people there. It's very impressive. In addition, as I said earlier, upgrading the existing refinery factories, mainly in Alexandria, also south in Asyut as well.
Right.
Just to make it an example, a barrels of oil, when we imported as a refinery product almost 5 to 6 times more. So it's a significant. I think the focus of the head of state on the value-added project is significant for Egypt going forward.
Absolutely. Doctor, let me ask you, how rich is Egypt with regards to petroleum and gas in particular? Do we have a complete map, for example, of our petroleum and oil reserves, or is more exploration work needed? We often hear of, tenders and, for, as you said, foreign companies coming, winning this tender here or there to explore a certain area, whether in the Mediterranean, etc. So let's talk a bit about our capacity in this regard.
Very good question. In terms of capacity, when we talk about the gas, the East Mediterranean gas, it's a rich basin when it comes to gas. The last estimated figures, we're talking about over 350 trillion cubic feet of natural gas reserve. So definitely Zohr is a good example. Atoll, Raven, all this West Nile Delta field, all this project, it's a good example, but I strongly believe that the Mediterranean, when it comes to natural gas, is still a lot to be done. When you mention about all these tenders, and I think Egypt demonstrated its ability to attract all the mega international companies and regional company bid and have concession in the last 3 bid rounds of what Ministry of Petroleum floated. So for all this international company and regional company to come and commit to spending money because they know that we have a good reserve. We haven't talked also about in the Red Sea. Red Sea, there is a tremendous potential with the Red Sea, and that wouldn't have been possible without the demarcation agreement took place between Egypt and Saudi Arabia. So that's in terms of the gas. Oil, Western Desert is very rich when it comes to oil. Gulf of Suez, Eastern Desert. So back to your question, our capacity when it comes to oil and gas, definitely we have prospects. Exploration is very important.
Yes.
You cannot stop exploring. What happened post 2011 till 2014 when the exploration activity dropped significantly, you have a natural decline. So we turned from exporting gas to import. So it's very important to maintain the exploration. We can't ignore what Egypt have achieved in the electricity. Egypt have a production capacity of 58 gigawatt now. Our consumption is about 28, 30. So we have surplus of electricity. We're exporting to Sudan, to Libya, to Jordan, and there is a plan to expand from Jordan to Iraq. Also talk about exporting 3,000 megawatt to Saudi as well. And there is agreement in place to through a cable from Egypt to Cyprus, then to Europe to export electricity. So Egypt is a true energy hub for the East Mediterranean and North Africa, and we have the capacity and the prospect when it comes to oil and gas. We have a good plan. We are working on the plan. The result is happening. The East Mediterranean Gas Forum, which is became an organization with a Cairo as a headquarter. That's another basically step the government is taking towards what we aiming for, reaching and exporting our resources.
Right, Doctor, I'm going to shift us a bit now. Even rich countries that have lots of gas and oil and petroleum, etc., are really turning to renewable sources of energy. Let me ask you, Doctor, how do you see this? Are traditional sources of energy more expensive or less sufficient or efficient? And what does this green economy mean for Egypt? Are we moving with this wave? Is this also a priority when it comes to diversification of our energy sources?
Exactly. Diversification of energy resources is very important. And you will be surprised with the number. Egypt we have a capacity of about 18% of our electricity produced from renewable. We have done a fantastic when it comes to solar energy. We all familiar with Bimban, almost 2 gigawatt mega project with 40 station. We are gifted when it comes to sun. I mean, we have a good sun. Also the wind.
Wind, yes, turbines.
You have, for those traveling to Red Sea, Jabal Zayd, Zafarana, all this wind farm. So I think nuclear, Daba is another one which will start soon as well. So it is very important. Hydro, we have the high dam. It's about almost 2 gigawatts. So diversification is very important. There is no conflict between continuing exploring for fossil fuel and energy and continue also with the renewable. Egypt is turning and focusing on changing the vehicles to dual fuel, gas and petrol. It's good for carbon emission. it's, you talk about green energy. It is very important, and I think for the sustainable energy, we need to have this diversification. We need to have the focus on green energy. And I read a couple of weeks ago, there is a mandate from the Prime Minister that we are working on a paper between Ministry of Electricity and Ministry of Petroleum on a strategy for the green hydrogen for Egypt. So it's all part of Egypt plan for energy diversification. And the objectives is to reach by 2035 very aggressive 40% of our energy coming from renewable. Aggressive, but doable. Yeah.
Doable, indeed, right. Doctor, let's talk a bit about the increase in foreign investments in this sector, petroleum sector. It has increased by about 5.4%, reaching about $7.8 billion in 2019-2020, in addition to an increase of local as well investments in this sector by 90.9%, reaching 12.6 billion Egyptian pounds. What are the potentials for this further increase in this investment? The World Bank has predicted that oil and gas sectors will remain major drivers of foreign investment inside Egypt.
It will continue. If it wasn't for the COVID-19, I think we would have received a better number. Even with the COVID-19, Egypt is among very few countries in not the region, in the entire world with a positive GDP growth. So it will continue. Two of the major companies, one Italian company and British company, they had Egypt as their main, they had the main investment in Egypt in 2016 and 2017, 2 years in a row when we had all this big Mediterranean project. I think that will come again. We talk about diversification. There is other countries, especially in the Scandinavian countries, very strong when it comes to wind or renewable from winds. So we are attracting a lot of investors. And as I mentioned earlier, the example of having most and the major international companies and the regional company coming to Egypt and admitting and committed to basically explore gives the prospect of the country in attracting foreign investment. I think the economy reform have done a fantastic job in that.
Absolutely.
The stability of the currency, you don't have the fluctuation of
nothing to scare away the foreign investors.
Exactly. You cannot plan. Now they can plan because we have seen the Egyptian pound very stable, even getting stronger against the US dollar since the last 3 years after the floating of the Egyptian pound. It took some up and down, but we see it stabilized now, and definitely that's important. Africa, there is a lot of potential, but we are in Egypt, actually, we are one of the top 3 economy in Africa, because one of the risk in doing business in Africa, I think Egypt have came a long way in basically fixing that. Egypt on the transparency index, we went up, easy to do business, so it's all good indicator for foreign investor to come and invest in the country.
Indeed. And also, we've also branched out to different partners over the last few years. Egypt, Cyprus, and Greece, for example, are cooperating in the field of energy. And this diversification to different countries, different partners, different sources of investment and cooperation has also helped in achieving the aim of this development in this sector. Tell me a bit about the Egyptian, Greek, Cyprus collaboration in this field.
I think it's a good example, definitely in the energy, in oil and gas, but it's also politically, it's to have this allied with. There is a lot of history goes back between Cyprus, Greece and Egypt, and actually we have done the demarcation, the maritime demarcation with Cyprus in 2003, and that's why we managed to discover Zohr. So the 3 countries, good collaboration in the East Mediterranean Gas Forum. Egypt is leading, and this year, next year, of course, the headquarter will remain Cairo, but Cyprus will take over for 1-year term, and the demarcation between Egypt, maritime demarcation between Egypt, Greece. Now the new bid round for Egypt oil and gas will be in the west side of the Mediterranean, closer to the Libyan border. So that's a new area. We haven't had any exploration. The feedback, there is strong willingness from foreign companies. Now through Egypt Gateway, which it's all done digitally rather than having paper logs and all of that. It's all digitally. So Egypt is taking a significant step. And back to your comment, I think Cyprus, Greece and Cyprus, there is talk to get the gas from Aphrodite to our LNG plant in Etco and Damietta for to have it liquefied gas to export it. And instead of Cyprus investing $7 to $8 billion building LNG plant, they can use our existing facility. I think the pipeline will cost $1.5 billion. So instead of spending $7 billion, and we have the capacity to take the gas. And
so it's more of an industrialized collaboration again.
This is all ingredient of being a hub.
Yes.
You have an infrastructure, you have the LNG plant, you have the upgrading of the ports happening across Egypt, the upgrading of the roads.
Yes.
It's all come it's all come together for us to be an energy hub.
Absolutely. I'm afraid we've run out of time so quickly with you. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Dr. Hussein El Ghazawi, the energy expert. Thank you so much, sir,
Thanks a lot.
for coming in and for all your insight. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Thanks a lot.
Ladies and gentlemen, this wraps up today's edition of Cairo Local Time. We do hope you have enjoyed it. Many thanks to, of course, my editor-in-chief, Sahar Higazi. My name is Angie Meher, signing off.